Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore what is, frankly, one of the most dramatic corporate and athletic turnarounds in modern sports history. We're looking at Rangers Football Club. This is an institution with a massive, historic legacy that found itself teetering right on the absolute edge of total collapse, only to rise from the ashes and completely dominate the Scottish Premiership. It's a crazy story of legal warfare, boardroom drama, and ultimately an absolute masterclass on the football pitch.
So we're going to start our story at the absolute peak of the mountain. The date is March 7th, 2021. This was the day Rangers clinched their historic 55th Scottish Championship. And you have to understand, for the fans, this number wasn't just a cool statistic. It was the end of an agonizing decade-long drought. It was the first time in 10 years they had captured the league title, fundamentally breaking the stranglehold their rivals had on Scottish football during that entire span.
Now, the sheer scale of their dominance that season was just breathtaking. Achieving an undefeated league campaign is something most clubs can only dream of, right? 32 wins, 6 draws, and 0 losses. None. By locking in these results, they became the first club since the 2016-17 season to reach the monumental 100-point milestone. They didn't just win the league that year, they completely suffocated the competition.
And that absolute control extended perfectly to their home turf. Ibrox Stadium didn't just feel like a home ground, it became a literal fortress. They won every single one of their 19 home games there. But the defense? Well, that's where this team truly etched its name into the history books. They equaled the league record of 26 clean sheets and set a brand new British record by conceding only 13 goals across the entire league campaign.
It's really easy to look at those incredible stats and just assume everything was perfectly aligned behind the scenes, you know? But to truly understand the gravity of this triumph, we have to slam on the brakes and flash back to just a few years prior. We have to ask the big question. How did a club operating in complete administrative turmoil, dealing with court mandates and severe financial distress, pull off an invincible season?
Section 1. The 2017 Boardroom Crisis.
Let's step away from the glory of the pitch for a second and walk into the chaotic, legally fraught halls of the boardroom. Because in stark contrast to their future dominance, just imagine this scene. We are in the Court of Session in Edinburgh. The lawyer for Rangers chairman Dave King is standing before a judge, arguing that his client is, quote, penniless. It's an unbelievable word to hear associated with the figurehead of a massive football institution. The future of the club was suddenly clouded in serious doubt and legal jeopardy.
So, the intense boardroom battle that led to that crazy moment started back in March 2015. That's when Dave King, acting alongside a group known as the Three Bears, which was investors Douglas Park, George Letham, and George Taylor, collectively took a controlling interest in the club. Fast forward to April 2017, and King misses a critical deadline set by the Takeover Appeal Board to make an offer at 20 pence per share. This triggered a massive legal fight, which ended in December 2017 when Lord Bannatyne handed down a very strict court ruling.
Here's the catch. It all comes down to the 2006 Companies Act. The law mandated that because this collective of investors now held more than 30% of the club's shares, they were legally required to launch a full buyout offer to the remaining shareholders. The authorities accused King of acting in concert with the Three Bears to take control. This basically meant he couldn't just sit on his shares, he had to make a bid. And it was an order King initially failed to meet.
As a direct result of defying that rule, the court legally obliged King to find nearly £11 million to offer to the other investors. This was an incredibly tense moment. You've got King's lawyers in court claiming he lacked the funds, which obviously raised massive questions about his long-term strategy at Ibrox. And remember, this was a club that spent years heavily relying on a series of shareholder loans just to keep the lights on, following their devastating period in administration back in 2012.
Section 2. Legal battles and kit deals. The financial quagmire didn't stop at shareholder takeovers. They were fighting high-stakes, bizarre legal battles simply over the shirts on their players' backs. On one hand, a high court injunction actually prevented Rangers from wearing their own Hummel-branded kits due to aggressive legal action from Mike Ashley and Sports Direct. Literally barred from wearing their own kits. Yet somehow, by the 2020-21 season, they completely turned it around, securing a massive, stable 5-year deal with Castor worth £25 million.
The transformation between these two distinct eras is just staggering. Think about it. In 2017, the club is surviving on loans, announcing an interim manager, Graham Murdy, just minutes after a court rules against their supposedly penniless chairman. But by 2021, the boardroom is stabilized entirely. Douglas Park evolved from being one of those three bears investors into the chairman of a financially secure club, and on the touchline, they boast the leadership of manager Steven Gerrard.
Section 3. Building a record-breaking defense.
So, with the corporate foundation finally rebuilt, properly funded, and legally secure, that off-field stability directly translated into historically dominant performances on the grass. Tying back to those early defensive numbers we talked about, reaching 26 clean sheets wasn't just a good season, it was historic. It equaled an all-time Scottish League record. This impenetrable wall was anchored by seasoned players like veteran goalkeeper Alan McGregor, an absolute legend who had amassed over 400 appearances for the club. That kind of consistency, it really only happens when the noise surrounding the club is finally silenced.
And what's fascinating is that their attack was just as unique and devastating as their defense. Get this, their captain and right back, a defender, by the way, James Tavernier, finished as the overall top scorer across all competitions with 19 goals. Meanwhile, up front, their £4.5 million signing, Kemar Rafi, led the Scottish Premiership tally with 14 league goals. They had the investment, they had the strategy, and they executed it flawlessly.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. The invincible season of 2021 wasn't just a remarkable footballing achievement. It was the ultimate defiant victory over a boardroom crisis that nearly left them penniless. It proves that sometimes the greatest dynasties are built on the very foundations that almost tore them apart. So it begs the question, how does surviving the absolute brink of corporate ruin forge the ultimate champ?